Jews around the world celebrated Purim a couple of days ago on the 3rd of March. Right back in about the year 480 BC, Jews were targeted for extinction by some of the leaders in the Persian Empire. It was a disaster that almost destroyed the people of Israel, who were being held in captivity in that land. Now all this happened during the reign of King Ahasuerus, and is recorded in the Old Testament book of Esther. When the queen at the time stood against the king's wishes, he dismissed her and began looking for a new queen. Now there just happened to be a young Jewish lass called Esther living there, and she was chosen to be the king's new queen. Haman, who was the prime minister at the time, he was a descendant of Agag, the king of the Amalekites, and they had had a long history of antagonism toward the Jews. Haman had the king's ear because he was a prime minister, and he had power, but in order to gain more control, he suggested to the king that they eradicate any who would not come and bow before him. And of course, they were the Israelites who worshipped God alone. He had a plan. But Esther's cousin Mordecai overheard his plans being made, and he reported them to Esther, the queen, to pass on to the king. Now she was reluctant at first, but Mordecai spoke these amazing words to her. This is what he said: "If you stay silent during this time, deliverance from the Jews will come from somewhere, but you and all of your father's family will die. And who knows, perhaps you have been made queen for such a time as this." That's in Esther 3:6, in the Old Testament book of Esther. For such a time as this. Now I wonder if you're in a special position yourself for such a time as this. The circumstances may be different, but God's plans will prevail. Now a few days ago, the Middle East battles erupted yet again. Modern day Iran, which is the old Persia, by the way, once again had that goal to eradicate the Jews. Is this history repeating itself? What will the outcome be? I think we know. God worked in what we may call unconventional ways back in the 5th century BC to save his people, and he will not allow his people to perish at this time either. For some light reading, check out what the prophet Zechariah says in his book in the Old Testament. Even if all the world is drawn into this conflict, it would be futile to fight against the living God. Now, I'm not saying that this will happen at this time, but there are many, many signs that line up clearly with biblical prophecy, and we should consider them all, particularly in light of the condition of our world at this time. But one thing is for sure, our governments will not save us. God alone can do that. I encourage you to prayerfully read God's word, the Bible, so that you can know and that you can have peace in your heart. No matter what happens, God is still on his throne, and his ear is still inclined towards you and me. His love is greater. His desire for each of us to not only believe in him, but to believe what he says and to have faith and keep that faith in God to save us for all eternity. May God richly bless you and your family at this time. And remember, we are blessed to be a blessing.